David, I'll start with you. Not so much in the particulars of that case, but this is yet another example, is it not, of the ECHR being used as I would call it, a bad guy's charter. It's there to actually protect the rights of these people over the rights of the citizenry already here.
Yeah, I mean, it's another case, isn't it? The country is not allowed to deport people in many, many cases where the ECHR is used by human rights lawyers to block the acts of government to do that. And we can't say, we're not free to say who we can have in our own country and who we can't have in our own country anymore. We need to come out of the ECHR. It's not fit for purpose anymore. It was a great thing at the beginning because it was drafted by British lawyers in the 1940s, implemented in 1950 for a continent that was racked by Hitler and the Second World War. So the countries there that had been destroyed and their judicial systems had been overturned and upturned and upended at that time needed something. But the problem is now you've got 75 years of case law from Strasbourg by activist lawyers increasingly making progressive and woke judgments about everything under the sun, and we have to comply with them.
But David, just before I throw it to Benjamin, why do we not, in your opinion, why does Britain not, like France and Germany often do, just ignore the ECHR?
I think that we have the Human Rights Act now, 1998, brought in by Tony Blair, which it compels courts in the UK to go along and comply with all the ECHR judgments that we have. Well, we don't need it because we've got all of the things that are in the ECHR in our own law, in Magna Carta, in the Bill of Rights, and many, many other great pieces of legislation and statutes that have come down through the centuries.
All right, Benjamin, what do you make of what you've heard from David there? The ECHR, is it a necessary bulwark against human rights abuses, or is it just used by bad people to stay and do bad things, I guess?
Well, I mean, there was a case in France just last year where they overruled the ECHR to send someone accused of being a jihadist back to Uzbekistan because they said Uzbekistan is a safe country, and they were able to, there were no consequences for that. So I think there are times when common sense should be applied. What this person is alleged to have done, I find it utterly insane that he would be able to stay in this country. He came here after the allegation of the crime, the apparent prosecution in Albania happened. So I can't even fathom. I mean, how did he get here in the first place? And we have a returns deal with Albania that has been very effective, and so you'd hope that the Albanian government would be more
But this is
recent.
the second case, Benjamin, in which an Albanian, in a matter of weeks, in which we've had a story about an Albanian being allowed to stay under the ECHR. So there is a problem, isn't there?
I mean, Albania is a safe country. As for that matter is Kosovo. Even if he claimed to be Kosovan, it's a safe country in this day and age. And so, it's clearly ridiculous, but I think there is room for the government to say that without coming out of a set of rules which are accepted by pretty much the rest of Europe, with the exception of Belarus, right? I don't think I want to be in a boat with Belarus or Russia. And we should also ask ourselves, in a tentative economy, one of the great selling points of Britain is our rule of law and how stable we are relative to a lot of countries. When we start removing ourselves from these, don't think it will just solve a few migrant issues. It will have a knock-on effect to how Britain is perceived as an economy.
So, David, how do you circumnavigate that then? How do you actually sell to the British public that you're going to repeal the Human Rights Act? It sounds awful, that, doesn't it? Repealing human rights of the British people.
It sounds bad, but it's actually the right thing to do because the Human Rights Act ties up the country in not allowing us to do what we need to do to keep people in this country safe. And we have human rights. We have fundamental freedoms. They come from this country. Like I said before, Magna Carta 1215, the Bill of Rights of 1689, all of the things, you shall not torture people, people have the right to life, people have the right to a fair trial and due process. They come from ancient laws in this country. So we don't need to be in the ECHR. We have those things ourselves, but we should be able to decide what we want to do in this country to keep people in this country safe.